Have you ever wondered what the greatest threat to humanity really is? War? Corruption? Greed? Philosopher and theologian Dietrich Bonhoeffer argued otherwise. He believed the most dangerous force in society isn't malice, but something far more ordinary: human stupidity. It sounds almost humorous at first. Stupidity, really? But Bonhoeffer, who resisted Hitler's regime and paid with his life in 1945, saw stupidity not as a simple lack of intelligence, but as a moral and social disease, one that spreads through groups, manipulates entire nations, and paves the way for tyranny. And here's the terrifying part. Bonhoeffer warned that stupidity is harder to fight than evil itself. Because while evil can be confronted, exposed, even punished, stupidity defends itself with confidence, certainty, and sheer numbers. Today, we're going to explore this forgotten warning, what Bonhoeffer really meant by stupidity, how it has shaped history, how modern psychology proves him right, and why ignoring it could mean repeating humanity's worst mistakes. Before we continue, if you're finding value in these deep dives into forgotten philosophy, make sure to subscribe and like this video. To share your thoughts in the comments, it helps this channel grow and keeps the conversation alive. Now let's take a dive. While imprisoned by the Nazis in 1943, Bonhoeffer wrote letters and reflections that would later be collected as Letters and Papers from Prison. Among them was a chilling analysis of society under dictatorship. He wrote, "Against stupidity we are defenseless. Neither protests nor force can touch it. Reasoning is of no use. Facts that contradict personal prejudices simply need not be believed. Indeed, the stupid person can even turn into a weapon of evil, for they are easily manipulated." Notice something here. Bonhoeffer didn't describe stupidity as a lack of brains. Many highly educated people, he noted, fell victim to it. Instead, he described it as a kind of surrender of one's moral agency. Stupidity arises when individuals stop thinking for themselves and instead absorb the slogans, beliefs, and narratives fed to them by power. This isn't just ignorance, it's willful blindness. And once people adopt it, they defend it with zeal, convinced of their righteousness. Think about the implications. Evil requires intelligence, planning, strategy. Stupidity requires only submission and conformity. Yet stupidity multiplies faster, spreads wider, and empowers evil to act without resistance. Bonhoeffer argued that stupidity is not a personal flaw, but a sociological phenomenon. A person may be sharp when alone, but become stupid when absorbed into a group. This echoes what modern psychology later discovered: groupthink, conformity, and the loss of individual critical judgment. Take Solomon Asch's famous conformity experiments in the 1950s. Participants were asked to judge the length of lines on a card. When placed with actors who deliberately gave wrong answers, 75% of subjects conformed at least once, going against the clear evidence of their eyes. In other words, surrounded by a group, intelligent people willingly became stupid. Bonhoeffer observed the same under the Nazi regime. Ordinary Germans, teachers, shopkeepers, lawyers, pastors, didn't suddenly become malicious. They simply stopped thinking independently and repeated the official propaganda. And here's the haunting truth. Stupidity thrives not in freedom, but under power. Dictatorships encourage stupidity because conformity protects the individual from risk. It's easier and safer to go along with the majority than to resist. Now here's where Bonhoeffer's insight becomes truly unsettling. Evil can be identified, confronted, punished. A murderer can be jailed. A corrupt official can be exposed. But stupidity cannot be argued with. You've probably experienced this in small ways. arguing with someone who clings to a conspiracy theory despite overwhelming evidence, watching people share misinformation online, immune to correction, seeing large groups cheer for policies that clearly harm their own interests. This is exactly what Bonhoeffer meant. Stupidity isn't swayed by facts. Once someone has outsourced their thinking to an ideology, a leader, or a group identity, logic slides right off. And worse, stupidity isn't passive. It often turns aggressive. Those who have surrendered their judgment become enthusiastic defenders of the very system that exploits them. Bonhoeffer saw this firsthand in Nazi Germany, where ordinary citizens not only tolerated atrocities, but participated in them, convinced they were serving a higher good. Decades after Bonhoeffer's death, research in psychology and sociology have confirmed how right he was. The Dunning-Kruger effect, 1999. People with the least confidence are often the most confident in their beliefs. They don't know enough to recognize their ignorance, and this misplaced confidence makes them resistant to correction. Obedience to authority, Stanley Milgram in 1960s. In Milgram's experiment, ordinary people were instructed to deliver painful shocks to a stranger. 65% obeyed all the way to the maximum voltage simply because an authority figure told them to. Intelligence didn't matter, conformity did. Today, algorithms amplify stupidity at an unprecedented scale. Outrage spreads faster than facts, memes replace critical thinking, and communities form around simplistic slogans. Once inside these echo chambers, even intelligent people repeat absurdities with total conviction. Bonhoeffer couldn't have imagined TikTok or Twitter, but his warning anticipated exactly this environment, a society where stupidity is cultivated, rewarded, and weaponized. History is full of moments when entire societies succumbed to stupidity with catastrophic results. The witch hunts, 16th, 17th centuries. Entire communities convinced themselves women were casting spells, executing thousands without real evidence. The South Sea Bubble, 1720. Investors poured fortunes into a company with no real business plan simply because everyone else was doing it. The Rwandan genocide, 1994. Ordinary citizens, swept up by propaganda, turned against their neighbors with machetes, convinced they were defending their nation. Each case shows the same pattern. When fear and propaganda override critical thought, mass stupidity emerges, and with it, tragedy. Here's the chilling irony. Intelligence offers no immunity. In fact, some of the worst atrocities have been justified by educated elites. Bonhoeffer stressed that stupidity is less about intellect and more about moral courage. It's the refusal to take responsibility for one's own thinking. The brilliant Nazi propagandist Joseph Goebbels had a PhD. He wasn't stupid, but he harnessed stupidity in the masses. Likewise, modern authoritarian movements often rely on highly educated strategists to spread simplistic slogans that bypass reason and appeal directly to emotion. So the antidote to stupidity isn't education alone. It's independent moral thinking, the courage to resist collective pressure even when it costs us. The psychology of safety in stupidity. But why do people choose stupidity? Bonhoeffer believed it was partly a matter of safety. Under dictatorship, independent thinking is dangerous. It isolates you, exposes you, makes you a target. But surrendering your judgment, embracing stupidity, offers protection. You become part of the majority. You blend in. This still applies today. Online, many prefer repeating popular opinions rather than risking backlash. In organizations, employees often nod along with poor decisions to avoid standing out. In politics, entire populations embrace simplistic solutions because complex truths feel risky and unsettling. Stupidity is comforting, but that comfort comes at a terrifying cost. Bonhoeffer ended his reflections not in despair, but in a call to action. He believed the only way to resist stupidity is through an act of liberation, not argument, not persuasion, but helping people recover their independence. In his words, the only way to overcome stupidity is through an act of liberation. Until then, we must abandon all attempts to convince the stupid. What does this mean for us today? It means fighting stupidity isn't about winning debates in the comments section. It's about creating environments that encourage responsibility, courage, and critical thought. It means resisting propaganda, questioning simple slogans, and valuing truth even when it's uncomfortable. Bonhoeffer's life gives his words